don't know this, I don't know where you've been reading. According to the perspective of psychoanalysis, why do we act the way we do? And why do we have the personality? Due to what? And? Very good. Okay. So today we're looking at how we actually assess, basically, unconscious thoughts. So we're looking at Freud's perspective. What is that technique that he used, where you say whatever comes to mind, and the therapist writes it down and then analyzes you and tells you what's really going on unconsciously?
Pre-association.
Very good. So you already know this. Let's repeat. So that's the first way that we assess the unconscious, or technique that's used. It's still used today. And as we talked about before, it can be judgmental and very subjective. All right, so this is repeat. That is the first technique that's used to assess the unconscious. And this technique would be used in like a therapeutic setting. Like if you were having trouble and you went to see a therapist for some reason, whether a psychologist or a psychiatrist, this would be used. The other test that we're going to use would be used more in like an educational setting or an institution or for court or school system, okay? And these are called projective tests. They're tests that you would take, and based on your answers, they reveal a little bit about your character, your emotional stability, and your personality. Or if you have any, not just emotional stability, but mental stability as well. Right, and these are called projective tests. And we're gonna look at two of them. So basically, they're projecting what's going on based on your answers unconsciously that you're unaware of, giving us an insight to your personality type, like I said, your mental stability, your emotional stability. If you were accused of some severe issue in the school system, they do what's called a lethality. You would have to have one of these tests, maybe both. Like I said, they're used in mental institutions. If you were accused of a crime in court, to determine your mental stability, you would be given these tests too. All right, so is everybody good? The first one you probably haven't heard of, the second one I'm sure you have. But the first one is called the thematic apperception test, or the TAT test. This was designed in 1930, so we've been using this a very long time, still used today. You'll usually see it abbreviated, the TAT test. I wanted to make sure you knew to associate that with thematic apperception in case you saw it. So with this test, what the therapist is going to do is ask you to look at a picture. And they're going to say, tell me what's going on in this picture. And based on your answer, they're going to, again, tell you about your personality, your emotional stability, mental stability, and character traits. Right, and I'm going to show you a couple of pictures that you would see, and then I'm going to have somebody actually try to take the test for me. We'll assess you. Right, so this would be a typical picture, which you'll see blown up here in a minute. Okay, that's one of the pictures on the TAT test, so the therapist would say, tell me what's going on here. You might talk about what the boy is feeling or what you are seeing. You get to say whatever, and they can't mislead you. They just say, what's going on here? That would be another slide that you would look at. It's kind of amazing that your answers to these pictures can actually tell us about your personality and your character and your mental stability. Does anybody want to take this? Oh, come on, I need a volunteer. Have to take somebody? Evan, you're in front. I want you to look at this picture, study it for a minute. It's all for fun. We're just doing a sample of it. I'm gonna ask you what you see in this picture here in a moment.
Wow. There are two female
Wait a minute, wait, I gotta get to it. Hold on. Keep your thoughts, and you're gonna have to go slow because if you've seen me type. Anybody else wanna type for me? Okay, you're a male. When's your birthday?
February
All right.
4th,
Okay.
2001.
My glasses. 21532. Zip code. Okay. So normally they would ask you to talk for about 10 minutes. We're not going to spend 10 minutes talking about this picture. So this will be just like a sample. So whatever score you get, you'll have to amplify that by like 3, 3 or 4, depending on how long you talk. But it's going to take me a while. So you have your ideas?
Sure.
Okay, now I can barely see these keys, and so tell me if I spell something wrong. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Just go ahead.
Yeah, tell me. You go slow.
So there were 2 female scientists.
Did I spell it right? No. Okay, go ahead.
One of the scientists was older.
See how important typing is. Was older. Okay.
She was teaching the younger scientist how to perform an experiment.
We'll go with 2 more sentences.
All right. Ooh.
Pressure.
I don't know if I can give you 2 more.
You can talk about anything that was in the picture.
So, both women were wearing the same attire.
Okay. One more sentence.
Mm.
You think about what they had, what was.
The younger woman
Yes, we're going to continue. Okay. All right.
has never performed this experiment before.
All right. Now, normally, like I said, someone would talk for 10 minutes, and then they would assess them, and this is going to say, "You sure you want to finish?" Yes. All right. So what they're looking at here is your need for achievement, affiliation, to be affiliated with others, need for power, which apparently is very strong for you. Just look down here, it tells you what it means. Like self-reference, people who use a lot of self-references tend to be more insecure, nervous, possibly depressed. Good, you didn't use any, you had 0 there. Social words are an indication of how outgoing you are or connected with others. Yours was pretty high, so that's good, you're very social. Positive emotions, negative words indicate that you're a pessimist. You see the glass half empty. Positive words, you're an optimist. You see the glass half full. So these are the things you're looking at here in assessing. Big words, what's that say? Big words. You used a lot of big words. So people who use a high rate of big words also tend to be less emotional and oftentimes psychologically distant or detached. There we go. This is on the fly, and we only did a few minutes, so the numbers would be very different if we went on for 10 minutes. All right, so that's the TAT test. So just by looking at a picture, they're going to assess, all of these different things about your character and your stability level. All right, so, well, there's my recipe that I'm cooking tonight. All right, so the next test that we're gonna look at, I'm sure you've heard of. Anybody heard of the ink blot test before? All right, that's the second way that we assess the unconscious, and thanks for participating. This ink blot test is called the Rorschach test. And this was designed almost 100 years ago in the 1920s by a man named Herman Rorschach. So with this test, it is used for the same purpose as the TAT test. Here you're using them to gauge someone's personality, emotional stability. It's used as character evidence in a court setting or parole hearing. Also used in diagnosing mental illness. Used in school settings for lethality, so there's many purposes. I know that the school psychologist at Eckerd, when I worked there, I had to sit in because it was a male and we had a female student. There needed to be a female in the room, so I sat in multiple times there, as well as when I worked at the Finance Center too. So you're gonna be given a series of 8 ink blots. And just like the picture, instead of saying what's going on in the picture, you're gonna say, what do you see when you look at this ink blot? We're gonna look at 4 of them. So I'll give you an idea of what's after today, you'll be able to pass these if you ever have to take one. I'll tell you what's a good answer and what's a bad answer. All right, so first of all, what do you see in that? A bat, good. What else? Butterfly, good answer. What else? Most of you see a bat or a butterfly? A moth. They're the most common answers. They're good answers. So congratulations. That means you're well adjusted. All right, a few things they're looking for here. If you see heads of crocodiles on the end of the wings, which you can probably see them after you point them out. See at the end, it looks like heads of crocodile. That should not jump out at you because that indicates that you're a hostile person. You have pent up anger. Don't see crocodiles. All right, another thing, and I'm glad nobody said this. If you see this image as moving, like a bat wings moving, that could indicate schizophrenia. So thankfully nobody saw that and I have to report it. All right, so good answers. Math, moth, butterfly, and bat. Don't see anything like a crocodile. Never see a face in any of these, ever. So never say that. From now on, even when you actually see one, because there's one that like looks like a face, but don't ever say that, because according to these tests, that means you're paranoid and you think people are watching you. So never answer with face. Bad answer. All right, what about that? Penguins.
Boots.
Boots, that's the most common. A hat?
What?
Does anybody see like a man on a motorcycle with boots? Like, okay. A lot. That's the very common answer. Boots are very common. They jump out. A man, a bear. What'd you say? A boar. They're all good answers. So if you see a like domestic animal, that's good. Or even like a boar. Or if you see a man, or if you see boots, or anything on a motorcycle, that's good. Here again, don't look at faces, don't see faces, don't say dragon, don't say monster. They're looking for your ability to adjust to authority figures here. If you see like a gorilla, a monster, or a dragon, or even if you mention your father for some reason here, that indicates that you have difficulty dealing with authority. That's what they're looking for in this slide. All right, what about that one? That's a good answer.
Face.
You're paranoid.
But I see a face. There's a face.
I know. The next one I see a face. But
People wearing hats.
I always thought of Oompa Loompas when I looked at it, but do most people see like two animals or two people facing each other? Okay, good. That's a good answer. This slide is assessing the ability to relate to others. So if you should be talking about two, like two animals or two people, regardless what type of animal or people they are. If you don't see two of something, you have issues according to this test relating to other people. So this is looking at your social interaction. And again, don't see face. This means you're a sad person on this slide. So they're looking at your ability to relate to others here. Now this is this next one's one I see a face. I shouldn't say that. What do you see there? Clown. Clowns are good. If you see a face, a mask, or whether it's a person's face, an animal's face, a mask, or a jack-o'-lantern, that means that you're paranoid.
I see like a sleeve or something.
I don't know what this would be, but here's what they say a good answer is. Bat, butterfly, a female figure, a moth, they're all good. You know what they're looking for in this slide? This is the first slide they give. And how fast you answer matters here. So it's not so much your answer, but it's when. Since this is the first one they show you, if you answer really fast, okay, they're saying that you're very impulsive, you're a risk taker. Or if you answer too slow, you're too cautious and calculated, and you're trying to figure out what they want you to say. Okay, so that's what they're looking at in the first slide. It's not so much what's in the picture.
What time counts as too fast or too slow?
Exactly. Yeah, I guess don't answer it. I don't know. Count like 5 Mississippi, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and then answer, I guess. I don't know. Who knows? And that's going to be my point in a minute. Like, that's inconsistent, depending on who you go see. Someone might think 10 seconds is too long. Somebody say 5. You know, what's the gauge? A little bit about all of these. And I'm only going through 4. That's all that they have released. Other things they're looking for in all of them. If they show you an ink blot, because they're just ink blots, and you say, this is a bat, okay, that could indicate that you're mentally unstable or maybe psychotic because this is just an ink blot. It really isn't anything. Better answer is, this looks like, or I think this may be. Don't just say this is. Isn't this awful? You just pick apart everything you say. And I like what this says. If someone says to you, this is just an ink blot, that could mean several things. It could mean that they're spoiled, self-absorbed, narcissistic. It could mean brain damage, or they're just a smart ass. So that's funny. Never answer anything dark, devilish, satanic, violent. Good answers for all of these are domestic animals, people holding hands, nature, like flowers and things in nature, they're always good. So that's what you want, or people relating to each other. Never insects or large animals, that's scary for them, so don't ever do that. All right, faces, never a good idea. It means they're paranoid. Okay, what is the problem with that TAT test and this test, these projective tests? You were on the right track.
Anyone can think anyone about anything.
Exactly. Okay, they all have the answers, like I was just sharing with you for each slide. Okay, they've all come to like a common consensus about. But what if I say, well, I think this looks like a washing machine. Wait, it's not in here. So now they have to interpret me. There's no guideline for that. So if I go to Evan, he could say, oh, that's a good answer, that's fine, everything's fine with you. But if I go to Hannah, she could tell me there's something wrong with my personality for saying that. So they're very inconsistent, they're subjective. No matter who you go to, they're going to interpret these very different. Okay? Even though they're very commonly used today, they're very, very inconsistent. If they don't have your answer, they're coming up with that themselves. And no matter who you see, it'll determine how long you wait or how they interpret your answer. Dr. Thatcher used to be our school psychologist. He passed away several years ago. But I used to have him come in. And because, of course, a psychiatrist would know more about the test than me, but I learned a lot from listening to him. He would go through the blots and have everybody answer and kind of assess this. And It was interesting, even though he was a psychiatrist using these a lot, anytime they had a lethality here, he was using them on children. And he, again, he would say, this, in the long run, this doesn't really mean a whole lot, because everybody's different, even though there's that commonality that if you see, crocodile heads, you're hostile. That doesn't mean everybody that sees them is going to be hostile. We're all people, we're all different. So anyway, all right, so we're gonna finish off today, and I'm gonna have you, if I have enough time here at the end, do a more recently released projective test called the Doodle test. So I'm just gonna have you doodle, and then I'm gonna assess you on how you draw. But if we have time, we'll get there. I'm gonna finish up, with 3 Neo-Freudians I mentioned yesterday, and I forgot to look that up, Kayleen, but I will.
I also thought of this one, what if it's like a single parent, like,
I'll look that up too.
okay. I don't know what I was thinking about it again this morning, but I was thinking if.
Well, that's good. You know what I was thinking about this morning? GDP. That's what I had to teach about first period. Gross domestic product. So last night, that's what I was learning about. Consumer price index and GDP. Horrible. All right, so the first Neo-Freudian, but I will look that up tonight. My lesson for tomorrow in government is not so bad. All right, so these are Neo-Freudians. They kind of built on Freud's ideas. Some supported his and built on them, and some argued against him. Alfred Adler believed that we develop our personality through different stages in childhood, but not through sexual tension, but through social interaction. That by our interaction with our family, our siblings, and our peers, that's how we develop our personality. He didn't really have specific stages, but he just believed that, yes, our personality is shaped as we grow, but it's not due to sexual issues with our libido that we're having, but due to our social interactions with others. He also said birth order makes a difference, so I wanted to read you what he said. And this was just based on statistics gathered by the order in which you're born, that he found that a lot of people shared these traits. But again, we're all people, so they don't apply to everyone. All right, he said that firstborn and only children tend to be more dominant, less open to new ideas. They tend to be leaders, overachievers, perfectionists, and very self-critical. Okay, so the firstborn. Middle children. So this is only if you have 3 kids in the family or more than 3 children. So those middle children, they are your peacemakers, your mediators, people pleasers, secretive, and isolated. All right, so if you are the last born child, or if there's 2, like then you're the second, last born children tend to be more rebellious, more open, more confident, agreeable, creative, problem solvers, charmers, and thrill seekers. So don't know if that applies to you all, but that's what he found. So, but again, we're all people, so not everybody's going to fit in that category. So he believed our personality was shaped by the order in which we're born. All right, I mentioned Karen Horney yesterday. She just looks angry. She spent her entire career arguing against Freud's idea of penis envy. I mentioned that yesterday, right? No? Okay. Freud believed that women, beginning in adolescence, had an envy for men because due to their genitalia, they have more power and dominance over women. So her argument against his claim was that men suffer from womb envy. And men secretly envy women because we can have children and they can't. So that's what she did with her career. Karen Horney. Interesting. All right, here's Carl Jung. He was actually a friend of Sigmund Freud's. And he believed in what we call a collective unconscious. He believed that we all have common ideas that we share with everybody across the globe, like what a hero is, everybody has that same image, or what a villain is. And, you know, it's just bred into people's personality. So, another thing that he did, he's the reason that Herman Rorschach came up with the inkblot test, actually. Because he used to have individuals, as a psychologist, come in and he would show them words. And he would say, what comes to mind when I show you this word? So that's where Herman Rorschach got the idea. Instead of words, let's show someone a picture or an ink blot. So that's where that came from, because of his work. So, all right, so we have time. I'm going to do the doodle test with you guys. And then I'll tell you a little bit about yourself based on what you draw. Again, this has no limit. This is just some interpretation you can look it up to assess your unconscious and your personality and civility. So in the fourth box, for the next 5 minutes, draw whatever you want. And you can draw for 1 minute, or you can draw for all 5 minutes. It's up to you. All right, so 5 minutes from now, I'll grab these. Nope, just that box, whatever you want. It would take too long to read it all of them, so I'm just gonna do 4. tell you what these mean. First of all, if you drew stick figures, you're insecure and feel inadequate about yourself. If you drew square objects, that denotes masculinity. Round objects denotes femininity. Objects with sharp protrusions indicate aggression. Very precise dimensions, that's very orderly and symmetrical, indicates neatness and obsessive compulsive, but also high intelligence. Numerous circles or circular strips indicate that you are very dependent on others and non-assertive. People who shade doodles with lines, vertical, horizontal, or diagonal, that means that you have obsessive personality types. Multiple edges with curvy lines indicate that you're aggressive and poorly adjusted. If you shade in items like circles or whatever you drew, that means that you're neat, tidy, and concerned with control. Houses indicate a feeling of security. A boat may indicate that you have a fixation or dependency on your mother. So, a boat. If you drew a domestic animal such as a dog, a cat, or a horse, that shows that you're integrated and well-adjusted. If you drew an insect like a bug, a spider, or a mouse, that could indicate a phobic patient. Large animals drawn by males indicate the need to be more masculine. Drawing people with long necks shows feelings of dependency. If you were very detailed in your drawing and you drew the entire time, that shows creativity and imagination. So there you go, a little bit about yourself. Again, inconsistent and holds very little merit, but interesting to learn about. Oh gosh, tomorrow's my last lesson.